Welcome to Otakin with Dave, coming to you from his palatial fortress in Sin City, where what happens in Vegas is talked about everywhere. Put your hands together for the pastor of positivity whose glass is always at least half full. Here's Dave.
Hey, how we doing out there? I hope you're great. I got to tell you right off the bat, I've just spent a week in Alabama in the month of April, so I'm sounding a little Elmer Fudd more than usual today. Man, I think I funneled pollen in every orifice. So if you can get past that, I think we'll be fine. So, okay, today we're going to talk about attention getters. You just be-bopping along in your life, and all of a sudden, boom, something happens. Something happens that gets your attention and hits that reset button on your priorities. Woo! It's not fun. It is not fun. I'll give a couple examples. I remember Vic was, she's about 8 years old. And so we were living in Alabama. Everything was going great. Career was going great. Health was good. Steph was playing tennis. I was playing tennis. Things were going well. Will was getting it as a 10, 11-year-old. Vic was in the third grade, like I said, and things were going well. And all of a sudden, Steph was playing tennis, and Vic was playing on a playground with one of her friends, just outside the tennis courts. And we never got Victoria a scooter. We never got her because she's accident prone. My goodness, she would get hurt in a rubber truck. But she's broke her arm a couple of times, just the slightest little things. And so we never got her one of those scooters because we're thinking, well, why? Nothing good would come of that. So they're playing on the playground. Everything is fine. And this other girl comes up on a scooter, and she's dressed like a hockey goalie. I mean, she's got the helmet, she's got the arm pads, the leg pads, the everything you can do safety wise. And so she pops off the scooter as expected. And as little girls will do, they walk over. Oh, look at that scooter. Vic just steps on it before Steph can say don't. Just steps on it and zip, falls. And no big deal. She gets up, dusts herself off. Without incident, apparently. Maybe a scrape here or there. And then so everything goes on. Then we get home a little bit later. They get home a little bit later. And Vic's got a headache. Little headache. Just won't go away. Headaches are normal. My head hurts. Okay. All right. Rub something on it. That's the way it was when I was growing up. Rub something on it. Come on. If you're, still hurting in 3 weeks, we may go get it checked out. Anyway, the headache wouldn't go away. So we thought, just to be safe, let's take her to the emergency room. I mean, goodness, we were frequent flyers there anyway. So we took her to the emergency room, and we thought everything's going to be fine. And, the doctor said this, doctor said that. He said, just to be safe, let's run a quick CAT scan. So they did. They zipped through it, and we were waiting for him to come back and let us go. He comes back, and he is, boom, white as a sheet. And he's saying, we've got to get her down to Children's. And Children's, when they say that, that's a Children's Hospital in Birmingham, about 2.5 hour drive. And we were like, what? He said, yeah, she's got an epidural hematoma. And basically it's bleeding on the brain and it's growing. And I said, well, okay, how are we going to do, do we drive her? Oh, no. We have to get her in an ambulance. And we said, well, they didn't have time to wait on a helicopter to medevac or whatever. And so, okay. And they weren't going to let me ride in the ambulance at first. And I'm saying, look, they said, we can only have 2 people in the ambulance. And I said, well, I'm going to be one of them. And, whatever it took. So here we go. We were having a normal day. Everything was, and now we have to go down. They cut an inch circle out of her skull, pull that out and do some stuff in there, poke around in there with a stick, I guess, and put it back. And they're saying, we'll have to wait and see. I remember, we can find humor in anything. Nothing was funny about this. This is my little girl. Are you crazy? And I am skipping over a lot of detail to get to our topic today. But anyway, they bring her back from surgery, and me and Steph were leaning over her, and here's our sweet little girl, little dancer, little blonde, and we're looking at this where they didn't have to shave a lot, but they pull back, and we could see the incision and all of that, and she's a little swollen, and we're like, oh, wow, look, oh, she's so swollen, oh, look at that, and her eyes were closed, and she says, I can hear you, which is, oh, hello. Oh, sorry. What did we say? Huh? Anyway, long story short, this was an event. After her checkup, she did so well. And they said, look, this is an event. There's no ongoing brain damage. We got to it quickly. Everything is going to be okay. Any health problems she has from now on will not be a result or be caused from this. Within a month, she was dancing again. She was everything was back to normal. However, that got my attention. There's other things. I remember one time my son had a wreck. He flipped his car, totaled his car. He was okay, little bumps and bruises, but whoa, that gets your attention. I remember when Mom was diagnosed with a horrible, horrible disease, and our life with her would never be the same. Oh, that'll get your attention. And then when I go for a normal physical that led to a trip to the dentist where my jaw was, and it's not pointing fingers at me, it's like I had all these other plans. Well, for the next few weeks, we'll put those on hold. They're going to wire my mouth shut. I speak for a living. Not well, but I do it. Things will happen that will get your attention. So what am I saying here? I think there's some areas in our lives, and I'll call them 4 core elements. There may be more, but I think these 4 cover most of it. 4 core elements that keep you grounded. And I'll talk about what that means. 1 is humility. It rings in my head every day what Mom used to say about don't pray for patience or humility because they both have a tough learning curve. But humility, especially for me, because it keeps your ego in check. It helps you stay teachable, coachable. It helps you remain grateful. That's why I do these gratitude posts. There's something in everything to be grateful for. And it keeps you connected with other people. Humility does that. And it allows you to grow without being arrogant. That's huge for me. I mean, I've been insecure, I've been all these things, but I get a lot of positive feedback. And, whether it's playing music, whether it's speaking, whether it's, all these different things I get positive feedback around. Sorry for that alarm. That keeps me humble. It helps humility helps me stay grounded and not, as my mom would say, get too big for your britches. Because if you do, something's going to get your attention. So humility. The second one would be discipline, and this is far-ranging, but it's discipline. I've heard it said discipline is the backbone of consistency. Whether it's your work ethic, which is key, it's your health regimen, your habits around taking care of yourself, your mind and your body. And discipline is what turns goals into reality. Discipline is what separates a person from absolute chaos. And that's important. You lose your discipline, something's going to get your attention. And we'll talk more about that. Also, I'm going to lump the third one. So you've got humility, discipline. The third one would be faith or purpose. Now, I'm a religious guy. I really am. A lot of people I don't push that on people, but also that's why I say purpose. It could be spiritual. It could be a belief in something bigger than yourself, karma, the universe, whatever it is, whatever gives you direction or meaning or resilience in tough times that you really can't describe. I'll put that in the faith bucket. You get outside of that, and I got a lot of examples there, but I'm not gonna go on and on, because if I do, I'll go on and on. But these are things that keep you centered when a lot of other things don't. And if you get outside of that, something's going to get your attention. I can promise you that. And then the fourth one I would say is compassion. It's empathy. It's thinking outside of yourself, putting others with a priority in your life. And this would be nurturing relationships. It would, again, with that empathy, you can't have a strong relationship without empathy. You may think it is, but it's not. If you're so selfish you don't see other people, something's going to get your attention. It reminds you that, we're all in this together. We're all in this fight of humanity together. So those are the four things: humility, discipline, faith, and compassion. With those four things, you have them in balance, your life is going to be fuller, and things will still get your attention. However, it won't be as big of a shock because you're in tune with your path. It's almost like, you got on your phone, you got a map and you're going somewhere. That's easy. I follow that thing off a cliff. I follow it right into the ocean if it doesn't tell me to turn. Having these four elements in check and balanced, that's almost the same as a guide. You may take a wrong turn here and now, but it's gonna pull you back without the sudden attention getters. Because life has a way of a casual nudge or a total shake-up when you get out of line. So there's some things, there's things that you can look out for a little bit. Like for humility. What happens when humility fades? You might start feeling invincible. Oh, look at me. I am important. And when that happens, you stop listening. You stop paying attention because you think, I got this figured out. Man, I got this. I've done this 1,000 times. Follow me. I got this. And hey, while you're following me, recognize I'm leading you. I am the leader here. Ego. Your self-importance. Less attention to detail. So what happens with that? Somebody calls you out. You lose a relationship. Something humbles you. That's going to happen. Those are the attention getters. And think in your own life when you've got a little too big for your britches. Something, someone, a situation, hopefully not a tragedy, humbles you. So you've got to stay grounded. With discipline, what happens when your discipline fades a little bit? You start slipping on your responsibilities to yourself or to others. Your attention to your health. Yeah, I can do that. It's no big deal. And I'm not saying don't have fun. However, if that discipline fades, so are the things that discipline builds. Your health, your time management, your money. You get undisciplined a little with money. I've had friends who gambled a little and they didn't realize, but that pushed something inside of them. That pushed a button, a gambling button, out of control. They lost discipline. Excuse me. And then the chaos can be overwhelming because the other things aren't working well together. And then how life will get your attention is with that, burnout. You never had that problem before. You'll miss an opportunity and you're overwhelmed with something else. Now you're burnt out. A little bit of debt turns into a lot more debt. It piles up. Excuse me. Or your health will decline. And once these start, they create such a momentum They get your attention, but sometimes you're helpless to do something about it. So that structure and discipline, not to the point to where you're no fun and you're not enjoying anything, because discipline actually builds that joy. But when you lose that, something's going to get your attention. And then with the faith, the faith or having a purpose, without that, when that fades, you feel lost. You know, whatever you depended on, when it's gone, it's like a boat without a rudder. And so you just feel like you're going through the motions. You don't really get excited about the things you used to. You know, that's the result of when you don't feel a purpose. You don't feel, you feel out of sorts. Maybe something as small as that. You don't feel like karma or the universe is giving back to you, and you don't realize it because something else has happened. You know, you focused on something else and there's no balance, and all of a sudden you don't get that joy out of the things that used to bring you joy. So when you face a crisis or a loss, or maybe there's maybe a transition or some change in your life that your faith would have normally gotten you through with flying colors, you just hear that whisper in your ear. There's got to be more than this. Something's missing. What's going on? It's because you're not grounded again in whatever faith or purpose you had. And hopefully it's getting your attention without tragedy or something like that. And then lastly, the whole compassion thing. What happens when your compassion fades? And all of these, it's not just a boom, black and white. It's a little at a time. You don't notice it. And that's why it's so dangerous and so important to keep grounded. But when your compassion fades, you'll notice yourself being a little more critical. Especially of other things. You know, your humility may be gone too, so it's everyone else's fault. It's not your fault. You'll be more isolated because you're more critical. People don't want to be around somebody that's so critical, especially if at one point you were compassionate, and then your critical nature, your lack of compassion will cause you to be harsh. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be around that. You know, if you're not compassionate toward people, you're not going to have people to be compassionate toward. And then a lot of times with the compassion, you lose it toward yourself. You know, something happens. Something gets your attention. And if you don't handle it correctly, you're harder on yourself. You don't give yourself compassion, and it takes longer to recover, if at all. You know, conflict surfaces and gets your attention. Then, you know, a loneliness can creep in. You may have hurt somebody unintentionally, but it still hurts. And then you leave yourself saying, what happened? And if you're not grounded in these four elements, you'll blame everybody else. So, you know, your heart is so powerful. It's not just keeping you alive and pumping blood. It's keeping you alive with compassion and doing what you know you should. So sometimes a shake-up is necessary. Hopefully it's just a little tap on the shoulder. You know, but sometimes it's painful. We want them to be rare and random. But sometimes it is... I think the worse we get with these managing these elements, the harder the shakeup needs to be. The attention getter. It needs to. Because, you know, life has a way of recentering us. And then when we drift too far away, it's going to get our attention and create some loss. And, you know, these aren't fun. You know, with humility, one way to get your attention is failure. You fail miserably. Maybe a public failure, maybe a private failure, but it will get you. It will humble you. Maybe you get called out publicly. Maybe you've been doing this a long time, but somebody younger comes along, a new young buck in town. All right. If you haven't been keeping up and you depend on old ways, somebody new coming in, that's humbling. And then understanding you're not above the basics. You haven't been doing this so long successfully that you don't have to pay attention to some of the details. And that public humiliation will grab you, but also that self-doubt. Whenever you think you have come so far, you just got to have something inside you to remind you of how far you have to go. Because if you think you've arrived, oh wow, that destination is not a place you want to be. You've got to have something to strive for. And that can keep you humble, reaching out for help. That new young buck, partner with them. Teach me some new stuff. I'll teach you what I know. You teach me what you know, and we'll get there together. That's a healthy attitude. The burnout and breakdown, that happens when you lose your discipline. You hit a wall from just having poor habits. You used to be able to do this all the time. Now it's overwhelming. With age, I get that physically. If you don't do certain things, when you go back to try them, oh my goodness. I remember I used to be able to do this. I used to be able to run 5 miles. I used to be able to walk for 2 hours. Used to. You know why you don't now? Because you quit. You lost some of that discipline. And with a lack of discipline, I've said it many times, and I've experienced it many times, a lack of discipline leads to chaos. And now you've got to rebuild routines to get to back where you were. And a lot of times it's new things. That new things feeds discipline. Here are the steps. Here's what we do. Here are the fundamentals. I'm a guy. I don't like reading directions. Steps 1, 2, and 3. Come on. That's for the rookies. I can see the picture. Yeah, let's go. Let's do step 4. That's where I want it to be. Let's go to that. And then at the end, I got all these pieces left over. IKEA drives me crazy. But anyway, the discipline around this, when you understand and see a slip in your discipline, you've got to have a trigger in there to say, I can't keep living like this. I can't keep up with this routine because it's not going to get me where I want to go. I'm fading in this regard, and this is important to me. You got to have discipline. And that's why I recheck every now and then. All right, where am I with my goals? Always have goals. Oh, you've got to always have goals, and they change over time. But you have to have that recheck. Where am I in regards to this? If it's a health if it's increasing your health, if it's improving your health, whether it's a weight problem or a blood pressure problem, whatever, have a measuring stick so you know where you stand. And then discipline will keep you on that. A healthy attitude toward discipline is when you crave it. A lot of psychologists talk about children that act out. They're craving discipline. They're craving guidance. They may not even know it, but they need it. They need that structure. And they need it for several reasons. They need it to grow and build their own discipline, but they also need it to harness the chaos. That never ends. I don't care who you are and how disciplined you are. When that fades, I know elite athletes that in the off season, they let themselves go a little bit. Well, they deserve it. Good night. Look what they've done. But there is a limit. And then they have to build it back. That's why a lot of athletes, when they retire completely, if they lose their discipline because they don't have something to strive for, they get really bad out of shape. And a lot of them don't live a long time if they lose their discipline because they go from hyper-focused to chaos. Yeah, so let's talk about faith and purpose. When you lose your faith or purpose or reason to be, great Kansas song, what can happen? A death of a loved one. That's so tough. It's so tough. And luckily I haven't had a ton of that situation, a few, of course, but a lot of my loved ones are older and it's coming. I've lost some people very close to me, but nowhere close to the people that I know that have lost children or siblings or something like that. I can see that shaking your faith and purpose. Maybe you're you're tied to a career. Your purpose and my goodness, your whole identity is around a job or a career, and you lose that for some reason. That'll get your attention for sure. Or a health scare. So many people. I've had dear friends who have lived through it, thought they lived through it, got a little out of focus, and it came back. So you start asking yourself again, why? Why me? Which is normal. I don't beat anybody up for that. But a lot of times it's when something gets out of focus or out of balance around these four elements. And then lastly, the whole compassion part of it. Someone you care about is not reciprocating. You're not as close to them as you once were, and you really don't know why. Maybe you said something that hurt somebody, but it's been so long now to reach out and apologize makes it even more super awkward. Or you haven't talked to someone in so long. Well, I will tomorrow. Well, tomorrow never happens. And then you get isolated and you miss that. Something's just not right. Well, it's that one connection. Well, it came from your lack of compassion. And you may be thinking, well, they wronged me. Okay. Maybe they did. But if this is important to you, have enough compassion to try to mend it, try to get past it, get rid of your hate, forgive and forget. I know people, I'll never do either. Well, okay, hold on, Bucky. Something's going to get your attention. But if it's that important to you and to those around you, because this isn't just about you, humility, you'll have more compassion and try to make it right, because you got to reset that. You have to soften yourself. You got to listen a little better and re-engage because something caused it. That moment's where you feel a heaviness. That feeling is a gift. That something is not right. That's good. That's good. If you're uncomfortable, that is a note. Do something about this before something gets your attention. It's rough. And sometimes to get this, you have to look at the opposites, like the opposites of humility. Easy. Pride. Arrogance. I know it all. Come on. You can't teach me anything about this. I've been doing this since you were knee-high to a grasshopper. Or you need the credit. They didn't do that. I did that. Or just, I don't need to learn anything new. I know this subject matter. There's nothing you can tell me about sales. My goodness, I've taught half the country how to sell. Oh, yeah. Yeah, defensiveness. That shows your humility is hurting. When you have to win every conversation or get the last word in. Or you're isolating yourself. Somebody's trying to help you, to give you some honest feedback, something you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. When you isolate yourself from that, you got a humility problem. The discipline side of things, procrastination. It's laziness. Procrastination and laziness are cousins, close cousins. But then you get to the point to where maybe you're indulging in things. You're eating too much. You're eating the wrong kinds of food. You're drinking too much. You're dabbling in some habits you shouldn't. You're cussing too much. You're gambling too much. You're driving too fast. That's a lack of discipline. It's chaos. When you find yourself living on an impulse. Now, impulses are fun. We had a birthday deal a few weeks ago, and we had an impulse to go skating, roller skating. 60-year-old going roller skating. I got it now. When I touch my side, where I fell one time, I don't pass out or throw up or crap my pants, which is improvement. That was an impulse that was fun, but you pay for it. But impulses like doing drastic things, too much money, too much time, too much other things. When you're impulsive and what you do takes away from something that's very important because you did it on impulse, that's a lack of discipline. That lack of structure and people. I've got some videos coming up on some of the words I use aren't, structure can be guidance. It doesn't have to be built out of stainless steel and immovable. But when you have no structure, that's a problem. That's a problem. And then when you look for a short-term benefit that's going to hurt you long-term, that's the definition of chaos and a lack of discipline. So, procrastination, making excuses, then you're all of a sudden overwhelmed. That comes from a lack of discipline. And hopefully these little nudges get your attention before something major happens, something life-changing. The whole thing with faith, opposites of that would be, an emptiness, or you're cynical. I'm cynical about everything, or I just don't care. That's when you've lost your purpose. That's when you've lost your faith. There's a lot of deeper meanings here. I don't think you can get away with anything. I really don't. I think if you do something bad, you're going to pay for it eventually. If you do something good, you're going to get rewarded for it. And see, that's the balance in the universe, or karma, or faith, or whatever that is. So there's a deeper meaning there. And if you, what's the saying? I've heard it both philosophically, then I've heard it in a hate breed song. If you don't live for something, you'll die for nothing. Strong. So believing in something matters. And then when you lose that, you're floundering. You question everything. Questioning is good, but when you question things without wanting to know the answer, that's a problem. And it leads you to be numb. I don't feel anything. I don't feel good. I don't feel bad. Just, ugh. And you're disconnected. And then all of a sudden you feel this overwhelming despair. It's because you've lost your faith and you've lost your purpose. Hopefully you can reconnect before something bad gets your attention. And then lastly, the compassion part. The opposite of compassion would be selfish or bitter. I think I said it earlier. You're harsh. You're not compassionate. You're harsh with people. When you see all these people, instead of seeing individuals and what they have to offer, it's like, I don't want to deal with that. Or, they're an annoyance, or people are problems. You've lost your compassion. Or if you're holding on to grudges, what a absolute waste of time. It's like drinking poison and hoping it kills your enemy. You don't have any empathy for yourself or other people. It's just, you've just lost that sense of caring. And now it's just bitterness. You see this with people, these curmudgeons, these older people whose life they feel like has passed them by, and they're just bitter. Well, they have no compassion. They're constantly criticizing, or, a lot of people that have lost their compassion, they burn bridges in homework and play. Nobody wants to play golf with you. All you do is bitch about the weather and you never practice, so you suck at golf, and now you're mad at everybody about it. Or, at work, you're just negative. You're negative all the time. Nobody wants you on teams. Nobody's following you. You're not leading. You're just walking around alone. And then in relationships, people don't want to be with. They want to be with someone who lifts them up, who makes them laugh, who makes them want to be better. And a lack of compassion does that. To get to the how-to on some of this, I saw a thing the other day, and I'm just going to share it with you. It's called the 8+8+8 rule. I don't expect you to remember this. 8+8+8. Think of that. That's 8 hours of hard work every day. Hard work on whatever you're doing. It can be a hobby. It can be whatever, but focus for 8 hours. 8 hours of sleep. I don't get 8 hours of sleep, but 6 to 8 hours is great. 8 hours of sleep. Good sleep. Rest. Recharge. And so you got 8 hours left. So with that, focus on friends, family, and faith. Friends, family, and faith. The 3 F's. Okay, take some of that time to focus on the 3 H's. Health, hygiene, and hobby. Take care of your health. Brush your hair. Take care of yourself. Have a hobby. Hobbies are great because hobbies are usually hit that play side of things. That's wonderful. And then the 3 S's. Your soul, your faith, your whatever you have in that. Service. serving other people. That takes care of the compassion. And if nothing else, just smile. You smiling will make other people happy. It will. Or they'll wonder, what are they smiling about? I wish I had something to smile about. If you're more grateful, you have some things to smile about. So that's a good basic rule. 8 hours of hard work, 8 hours of sleep, and then 8 hours working on all these other things. So that's easy to remember. You can look at that. You can look that up under the 8+8+8 rule. I didn't come up with it, but I like it. And if you need something, some path to follow, I think that's a good one. But I want to get into some practical actions I think you can do with each element. So for humility, you see I do this, and it's important. I do it for me, is gratitude. Practice gratitude. If you follow me at all, you'll see my gratitude post. I'll just come up randomly. Sometimes it's silly, but it's always sincere. Just things I'm grateful for today. 3 things. 3 things. You can find 3 things. Anybody can find 3 things. Do it. Do it. Write them down. Give yourself a memo. Leave yourself a voicemail, whatever it takes. Another thing with humility, ask for feedback. Ask somebody. You need to have trusted people in your life that can tell you your baby's ugly. You got a booger in your nose. Your pants are unzipped. Those are the people. Hey, I've been struggling with this a little bit. Tell me, what do you think? Or, look at my yard. Look at that. I'm proud of it. What do you think about that? They'll tell you where you got crabgrass or where you cut it too short or whatever. Ask for feedback. Another one for humility, serve in silence. Do something for somebody else without looking for the recognition. This is big. Just do something nice without telling somebody you did it. Whether it's, helping a homeless person or texting somebody something or whatever, just do it without letting everyone know what you did and how great you are. That's the opposite of humility. And then I think the biggest thing with humility, or one of the biggest things, it's a step in the right direction. Admit when you're wrong about something. Admit it. That's great. Without excuses. Yeah, I did that, and it's so-and-so's fault. No, look, I screwed up. I could have done better. I did this wrong. I led you in the wrong direction, and I'm sorry. That's ways to stay grounded with humility. So discipline. I think discipline is great when you're doing it and you feel good about yourself. But when it slides, it's tough, and sometimes you feel helpless to get it back. Discipline leads to freedom. Discipline fuels freedom. So, something is, have a daily routine. Even guidance. From time to time, I'll leave a piece of paper in there for Steph to see in the morning. Here's what I plan to do today. Just to let her know if you can't find me, I'm probably doing one of these. That's loose, but it's also good for me to see. Even small goals. I'm a big believer in momentum, and small wins lead to confidence, which makes you go for bigger wins. And then when something big happens, it's like, okay, all right, that discipline fuels freedom. And then you've got, a lot of the discipline for me is limiting my distractions around my phone, email, social media, all of that stuff. And when I'm on, I do that in the morning, at lunch, and at night a little bit. And I have a designated time to where I'll do it. That discipline keeps me from wasting time and makes me more productive, but it also keeps me on track. So limiting the distractions is very important. That way I can focus on what and whom I need to focus. And then what I love to do with discipline, and this builds more discipline, is track your progress. Track it. It could be a planner, a to-do list, whatever you need to do. Here's, at one point, and I've tried everything. I've done, a lot of them work. Sometimes you have to try something because if something stops working, okay, try something else to achieve the same thing. Stuff I'm trying to eliminate from my life. When I do it, I do a little hash mark. And at the end of the day, I did it 8 times. All right, well, tomorrow I'm tracking it again. I did it 6 times. Okay, well, that's improvement. I've got the clicker. I've always got the clicker with me. Sometimes clicking up's good. Sometimes clicking up is bad. But the little things you can do to track it and show progress. What's the biggest tracker you can have that everybody's aware of that's over 30? A scale. Scales are pretty honest. So have that in there. That's discipline. Baby steps. Faith and purpose. This can be big, overwhelming, emotional, all these things. But anchor yourself in something. Faith is the anchor when everything else falls apart. You still have that. You still have that. Start with, prayer, meditation, reflection. I was out today by the pool with my cup of coffee. I was all into what I was doing. I heard a little sound, and I look over there, and it's Ruby, my boxer, 7-year-old boxer. She was reflecting too. She was over there sitting in a sunspot, and she just moved her paw, and I heard something. I was so focused. I didn't even know that. I was grateful for Ruby. I went and sat by her and scratched her belly. We had a moment, but that's that quiet reflection or gratitude or all of that. Maybe you read something meaningful. It doesn't have to be scripture or philosophy or, there's so many self-help books. I have 5, by the way. There's so many things, but a lot of times it's, it could be a podcast. It could be, there's so many things, audio books, audio things, 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there, that are built around this. But all of it helps you get back to what's your purpose? What's your meaning? What means something to you? What's your why? All of the buzzwords that you've got. Some people have to write it down. Some people should write it down. Others, when you're in the zone, you get it, man. And it may not even be words. It's a feeling that doing this brings. And then when it's over, you're ready. You're recharged. But I think spending time alone, whether it's in nature or what, you can find. I can be in the middle of New York City and be completely alone in solitude when I am in the right frame of mind. So that's very important. But find that. And then lastly, compassion. It can't, none of these can be overstated. But right now, compassion is a softness in a very rough, tough, prickly world. It's that softness. Check in on somebody. Hey, man, talk to them. How you doing, man? Somebody's going through a tough time. Just letting you know I'm thinking about you. It's a simple thing, and you never know when that timing's perfect for them. A tough one for me, but when I'm in a good spot, is to listen and don't try to fix it. Just listen. Let them know you care and you're listening and you're present. And don't try to fix anything. Don't try to fix anything. Another one, forgive. It's all right. No hard feelings. You know what's very important? Forgiving yourself. You screwed this up. Oh, what have I done? Forgive yourself regularly, daily, multiple times a day. But forgive other people too. Sometimes it's easier to forgive somebody else than it is yourself because you know all the details of yourself. And then just speak kindly. Be uplifting. Smile. Give it a thumbs up, a pat on the back to yourself as well. Your inner voice sets the tone for everything that comes out of it. You can create a rhythm with all of these things. A rhythm of humility, a rhythm of discipline, a rhythm of your faith and your purpose, and then that compassion. These things can be all together. It can be just that ball of your existence that's rolling smoothly. But once one gets out of character, it starts to bounce. And then it can break apart. And then something will get your attention. So I hope this has helped. Different things happen at different times. When you look back, they're totally predictable, and you can see this happened and this happened and this happened, and then boom. So focus on these things. It's very, very important to understand your humility, your discipline, your faith, and your compassion. So hit me up. Tell me what you think about it. A little more serious one, but hey, it's important. Something will get your attention, and you don't want it to be something tragic. Hit me up, Dave@otalks.com, David@otalks.com, hit otalks.com, all of this stuff. We got some crazy stuff going on. I'm doing some reach out stuff that you're going to hear about. You're going to see a lot more videos where I'm talking about what is personal productivity. And it's just about not wasting opportunities or time. So that's coming as well. But thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks for hanging on. I appreciate your support more than you know. And we're gonna continue to do some good stuff. So thanks so much. Thanks for your support. And giddy up.
Hey there. Are you having computer problems and can't get the help you need? Is there a language barrier or other obstacles that make you feel insignificant and unappreciated? We know just how you feel, and we are here to help. We are the Amish Tech Team. The Amish Tech Team is known for their work ethic, quality craftsmanship, and attention to detail. The Amish Tech Team will ride to your house, assess the situation, and leave you feeling good about the experience. Oh, Jedediah was just a lovely young man. He didn't fix my computer, but he built me a new desk, repaired my roof, and planted 2 rows of corn in the backyard. All of our technicians at the Amish Tech Team are English-speaking, respect traditions, and know their way around a grist mill. Send a letter by mail or carrier pigeon today, and when we get it, we will hop in the first buggy available and head out to your place. And the first 10 requests will get a complimentary jar of sorghum or an Amish Tech Team horseshoe to use as a paperweight. It's a real horseshoe. You don't have to put up with services that put you on hold or talk funny. Contact the Amish Tech Team and we'll be right out as soon as we get your message. And get free of our chores and load up the buggy and travel to your place, depending on traffic and the weather and those dad-blame motorized vehicles and all those bright lights and shiny signs that keep distracting the horse and tempting the young